everybody. This is, I know, another one of these weird driving videos, but I'm going to tell you the same thing I tell the people on the Tesla channel. You don't have to watch this as it's going on. Just put it on in the background and click around at some pictures or build some Legos or look at something else on mute and just listen to the story I tell you or what we talk about. And you're not going to miss anything. If anything really exciting happens on camera, I'll let you know. But basically, it's just going to be me talking to you. So today I thought I would tell you, since I never really had the opportunity to do it, kind of the story of, well, how did I get into Lego? And how did Tyler get into Lego? And how did that actually all transpire? Everybody kind of remembers their first Lego set, and I think a lot of kids have some understanding of what Lego is long before they get it. I did not. I'd never heard of these things. I had no idea what they were. So, first of all, let me say I was an Army kid. We grew up all over the place, mostly in Europe and in the South, frankly. And, of course, now I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I want to say it was probably about 1982. And there'll be a couple cautionary tales in here about things not to do as you're growing up. About 1982, I would have been in the, if I do my math right, I would have been somewhere in kindergarten or first grade, I think, something like that. Don't remember exactly. It was a long time ago. And I had gone through the house, and I had decided I would try to find my Christmas presents. I don't know if we had a babysitter. My parents weren't home. Obviously, at that age, I may have been left home alone. I really don't remember. I don't think so. Anyway, I decided I would go through the house and try and find my Christmas presents because I was really, really curious what I would get that year. And I found them. I think they were in my parents' closet. And I looked through them. Nothing was wrapped yet, so I could see everything that I was getting. And among them was this Lego set, which I didn't know what that was. The set was the police station set. I forget the number on it. It's the police station in our town, but it's the old set. It would have been out in probably 1981 or 1982. Obviously, it was new at the time. And I didn't know what Lego was, so I don't think I even registered what it was really that I was looking at, among other things that I got that were set aside for me to get that year. So I didn't really know what it was. I just knew that it said police on it. I could read that part of it. It was on the box and on the doors of all the vehicles and everything. So I knew very generally what it was, but not really what Lego meant as far as building toys. No idea whatsoever. Didn't know anybody that had Lego. Wasn't very common in Georgia, I don't think, at that time. We were living in Augusta, Georgia. So I'm like, all right, well, it's a police station and a police car and a helicopter made of plastic and whatever. I like cars. I was really into Matchbox cars at the time. So then I put everything back away and went about my business. And this was in the weeks leading up to Christmas. Well, somehow the conversation came up with my mom about what it was I wanted for Christmas. And I don't know if she knew I had found the presents or if she was baiting me, trying to get me to fess up, or whether she just wanted to see how close to the mark did they go with the things they'd already bought. And being a young kid, I stupidly kind of described in enough detail a couple of the things that I kind of thought I might want, and they were all things that I had seen in the closet. And she figured out pretty quickly that I had been into the presents. So my parents did a very unusual thing. They went out and they bought a whole different batch of presents, and then Christmas morning, as I'm unwrapping the gifts, and it's not to say that I was getting like loads and loads of presents. I don't know how many presents I got, but it was, it wasn't like I was getting 30 gifts. I was getting, a handful, maybe 5 or 6 or something like that. We weren't super rich or anything like that, so don't get the wrong idea. But Christmas morning, I'm unwrapping presents, and as I'm getting near the end and the number of boxes unopened doesn't seem to match what it was that I thought I was going to get, as the story goes, I started to question where some of those things might be that I kind of had supposed I might be getting. And I don't know. My dad's a military policeman, and somehow between the coercion that came from that moment, they it all was revealed, and it was like, well, you don't get the presents that you're going to get because you were sneaking around, and you shouldn't be sneaking around looking for presents. So let that be a lesson to all you kids out there: do not go looking for your Christmas presents. Now, having said that, I did, in fact, end up with this police station set eventually. I don't know if it was my birthday. I think it might have been a birthday present then. My birthday's in February, so they just held it over maybe. And I didn't know what it was. I remember building it with my dad, kind of helping me, like, here's how the instructions work and here's how it goes. Oh, okay, and, doing that. But it was just one set. Now, that police station set has a helicopter, and it has a car, and it has a building, and a motorcycle, although it's one of those really crude old motorcycles that's made up of like a whole bunch of pieces and doesn't look anything like a motorcycle, if we're honest. And if you look at our town tours now, we've actually dismantled that motorcycle entirely and turned it into a bunch of sidecars because the way the wheels went. So all of our sidecars, or not all of them, but most of the sidecars are parts that came from the original motorcycle, just put on the new versions of the motorcycles. Anyway, and so I played with that, and it was fun, and it was awesome, and all of that, and I enjoyed it. And then over time, more Lego sets came. I'm not really sure what the second Lego set is that I ever got, which is kind of funny. I think it might have been the fire station, or it could possibly have been the post office, or the post van. It was something like that. I don't really remember. But anyway, the sets grew and grew. Now, one more cautionary tale I will tell you about my time with Lego. When I was, so after Augusta, we moved to Germany, and in Germany, Lego is much more of a thing. And I had friends that lived above, this is a side story, I guess. I had friends that lived above us, and we lived on base, and there was an apartment building, and the people that lived above us, they had twins. Or were they older? Yeah, I think they were twins. And they had Lego. They'd known about Lego for a long time. They had a lot more Lego than I did when we moved there. But over the course of the 2 years that we lived at this particular base, which is in Zweibrücken, that base is now closed. It's been turned into, I don't know, whatever the Germans do with bases when they're closed. They had more Lego than I did when we got there, because they only had a couple sets. I may have only even had the one set, I'm not sure. But it was by playing with them that I really grew to love Lego, because we would combine their sets with the sets I had, and in this apartment building, it had radiator heat, and it had windows. It would run the whole width of a room, like our bedrooms would have, with windows all the way across the room. And the windowsills were, they had to have been 14 inches deep, something like that. They were quite deep. And so a base plate would fit on them easily. I think it was like a base plate and a half, or like a base plate plus. As I recall, the base plates are about 10 inches by 10 inches. So you could put a base plate on, and then at the time, a lot of the smaller sets, like the snack bar, which was another early set I had, that came on like a smaller chunk of just gray base plate. And that little chunk would fit next to a road plate, and they'd both fit on the windowsill. So you could make kind of a town, but it was like a one-street town that just went all the way along the windowsill. You put a couple curves in there, and well, now the streets don't connect. But anyway, we would combine our stuff. They'd bring their stuff down, because I think I had more base plates and they had more Lego or something like that. And but I think I went up there too. Anyway, doesn't matter. We would play together, and my collection would grow through birthdays and Christmases and stuff like that. And that was really all I wanted for years. And by the time we moved away from there, which would have been in 1985, I think about 1985, I had more Legos than the twins combined. So, because that was all I wanted, whereas they had, I guess, a little bit more diverse interests, so they were getting a little bit more diverse gifts. And the Legos remained a thing all the way through. I think the last time I had them set up was probably when we moved from Belgium. No, we moved to Germany the last time, which would have been in 1989. It's probably the last time I really had the whole town set up, until my kids became of age. Okay, so the other cautionary tale I was going to tell you is when we lived in Zweibrücken, around this time that we were adding all these Legos, my collection is expanding a lot. I really wanted to have a train set, and they had just started making the Lego trains. I don't think they were in the US yet, but at the time, the Lego train you could get in Germany was a red and yellow passenger train, was the one I really wanted. And it looked a lot like the passenger trains that the German railway was using, which we used to get around to go sightseeing and things like that, go skiing and stuff like that. So I really wanted this passenger train set. I don't remember the number, but you can look it up based on the time period in the description. But it was like a passenger locomotive and I think 2 train cars. And I really, really wanted it. And I saved up all of my Deutschmarks, because of course you had to buy them down in the city. And I had all my Deutschmarks saved up, and there were tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of coins, all coins. I think I might have had 1 bill, and I think the set at the time cost like 100 marks. It's something like, I think it was about 100 marks. I don't remember what that was in dollars. I have no idea. I want to say that it was probably $30, $40. It was just pretty cheap by current standards, and it was cheaper in Germany than it was in the US. So it was like $30, $40, but I had it all in marks and like pfennigs and all of that stuff. It's long before the European common currency. And I was embarrassed. So I finally saved it all up, and I was going to go down and we're going to buy it. And I was pretty embarrassed that I had all these coins, and I was going to be like counting them out, like, 1 pfennig at a time, which is like a third of a penny or whatever. I mean, it's like one little coin. I'm going to be that little kid at the counter counting out all my money. And at some point, my mom had asked me to go into her purse to get her something. I forget what it was. It may have even been to grab a 10 mark bill or something like that for her. And so in my head, my intention, and I saw that she had a 100 mark bill, and I thought, well, that'd be a whole lot cooler to go in and just pay with like 1 bill. And it's not like I don't have the money. I did save the money. I just don't want to go in there and count it all out to the guy behind the counter. So that was my intention at the time, was, well, I'm just embarrassed about counting all these coins out, so I'll just go in and I'll just give him this 100 mark bill, and I'll be quite the cool guy, and then I can give my mom all the change later, and she won't care. But my plan was foiled at some point because my mom went looking for this 100 mark bill and it wasn't there, and I don't remember how far in advance I decided that maybe I would do this plan, but I know I didn't ask. I know I didn't mention that I was embarrassed, because I'm sure they would have let me do that, because they could just go to the bank and get more bills or whatever. But I didn't say anything, and I didn't ask permission to exchange all of that. I just kind of did it all in my head. I think maybe I was too embarrassed to even ask. I really don't remember. It was not my intention to steal the money. I wasn't that stupid to think they wouldn't notice 100 marks, because I knew how much 100 marks was worth, because it took me a long time to save it up. But I did not ask permission, and I did not explain my concerns or anything before before I took it, and then before my mom found that it was missing. And so that was a big, huge drama about that being discovered, that was gone. And we did not go downtown. I did not get a Lego train, and to this day I do not have any Lego train sets at all. And it's kind of my punishment to myself, I guess, because they are kind of cool. So let that be a cautionary tale to you about that. So that didn't happen, and all of my Legos went into storage then when sometime between junior high and high school, and stayed there until my kids came of age to pull them out. They sat in storage and in boxes and things like that. That was that. So I guess I didn't get to Tyler and Mia. All right, so I will tell you more stories about my Legos later. Oh, I do have one more I'm going to add. So between they all these places, we lived in Belgium for a while, and while packing things up, because you had to always break down the town into little bags, and because they were large to ship them, so you had to break them down so that they would fit in the boxes to be sent, because you're sending them across the Atlantic Ocean back and forth. And so that was kind of cumbersome to like break everything apart. And then when we got someplace new, first thing I wanted to unpack were my Legos so I could build them all back up again. It's really time consuming. It's a lot of effort. So I got really good at like that kind of thing. And I had different layouts of the town every place I went, because the rooms would be different sizes and things like that. But when we were cleaning, so my mom would have this in her head that, well, we should clean the Legos before we pack them up. Why pack them up dirty? I get it. That makes sense. So we were cleaning them in the bathtub, or I was cleaning them in the bathtub, and and I'd take the set apart, and I would throw the Legos in the tub, and I would swirl them around, and then pull them out, put them on a towel, pat them dry, and then they would sit there, I think, and then like the next day I would put them into little like plastic bags. I don't think we even had Ziploc bags back then, but I put them into plastic bags, one set at a time, and until we got to wherever we were moving to. So I would be without the Legos for probably a couple months each time you went. It's probably about a month, each, and then you had to unpack things that were higher priority than the Lego when we got there. So, that's how it went. I really appreciated getting them back though. So I'm cleaning my airport set, which was at that time, I think, if not brand new, it was very, very new. This would have been about 1987 or 1988. It was the very first airport set that had jets, that had the actual like jets of that time. So I'm cleaning the airport set, and I distinctly remember it was a lot of runway lights were in because they were all those little round ones. I was like, I'm not going to take those apart. I'll just put them in together. And so I'm cleaning this airport set, and somehow in the process of swirling the things around in the tub, I snagged the drain, the little drain cord. And when I snagged the drain cord, all the water started rushing out. And I'll take my turn here. I'm going to get lost in my own part of town. All of the stuff started rushing down, and it was a huge drain in this particular bathtub. It was like a World War II era tub or something. It was huge, and so everything's swirling around, and it's pulling the water so fast that it's like sucking. It's like all this stuff down, and I'm watching runway lights disappear down the drain. They're just like one after the other, just a whole row of them. Zoom, 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 zoom. They all go down the drain. And I'm like, oh, what's happening? And I'm like trying to hold my hand over the drain, and where's the plug go? And while I got to move my hand to put the plug back in, and then more Legos went down, and I had no idea what it was that went. And because of the way that house was built, there was no going back into the trap to see if any were there. And I think that the Legos are light enough and buoyant enough that they probably just went straight into the sewer. And so I didn't even know what I had lost, because the building was disassembled, so I couldn't even see what was missing. And I was like, well, I can't rebuild it because we're on a time crunch. We're moving, right? So it's very like semi-traumatic there. It wasn't until like months later, when we got to where our new house was, and I start setting things up, that I can even begin to try and assess what's missing. And it was mostly runway lights, just because of the way things happened to be distributed in the tub at the time. And those are fairly easily replaced. We've replaced all of them now using Bricklink and things like that. But anyway, that was one of the weird stories about cleaning Legos to move them. And somewhere in a Belgian sewer, I lost a whole bunch of runway lights. All right, anyway. So there you go. A little bit unconventional Lego video for the channel here. But hopefully you enjoyed this little story of me reminiscing about what Legos were like back in my childhood. I will tell you a story about how we got them back out in the 2000s and what it was like to see all those Legos come back again, maybe on another drive somewhere, because this is a great way for me to do this without using time at home. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Please watch the other videos. I'm telling you about sets that are all in the town. They're all on the channel, and you can go back and look at those. And I really appreciate all you guys spending time with me. Bye.